Hello, everyone. So, today is my only day off. Actually, just kidding. I work today. So, I have off tomorrow, and that means we can stay up late playing Kingdom Hearts. That's going to ensure that I'm probably going to get my next crown, even though mostly it's just competing with teammates. So, it is what it is. Today, we are going to cover another chapter of Keyblade combinations. So, we're going to undo all of my keys, and we are going to talk about why I do what I do. Okay, so I already talked about blending keys together. So if you didn't watch my original composition video about making everyone work together, go back and watch that video first, because this is going to basically just tail off of that. So you can go ahead and watch that, and we'll go from there. Now, the main thing to think about when you're actually building a key is gauge management. So basically, you want to have a setup where you run through it and you know who you are going to use and why you're going to use them. So for this particular key, right now I have no good red booster that is better than my Pooh. So on my red key, automatically Pooh's going to go on there because he's the best booster that I have. He raises 2 tiers for 1 turn. So he's going to be on a lot of my keys simply because he's my best booster. Now, the rest of mine are going to be red, and so we're going to make some hard choices here. First and foremost, my best 2 red medals are going to go on the best 2 spots. So that's going to be my Mickey, who's going to go right there, my 2-2. And it's going to be my Exalted, who hits for 100%. Now, this right here is already 6 gauges. So it kind of puts me in a spot where we don't really want to go higher than 8 or 9. So we're going to basically elect to use a medal and then just pick the next strongest attack person. So we're going to go Riku on this slot here. Because he's an AoE, we need another AoE, and because he's 1 gauge. So 8 is the ideal number, 9, somewhere around there, is where your rotation is going to be exactly. We're gonna miss this on this key because we just simply don't have the gauges. Now, I have a couple of different options of how I want to do this last slot. We're going to actually put Cloud on here. And the reason that we're going to put Cloud on there is because he is the best built of the top 3 medals here. So Illustrated Cloud could work. However, I don't have any dots on him. So if I ever get the opportunity to use this special, I wouldn't be able to. Plus, he's 3 gauges, which is pretty much going to disqualify him. I have this on here. In case I do have the proper amount of gauges, I can use him. And he also hits for 7,700, which is pretty good. So that's going to be how we did that gauge. I will never use Cloud unless I have the extra gauges. The rest of the people I'll probably run the even series on, so it mostly comes down to management. So we got 2, 3, 3, and then 1. And that's pretty much going to be my rotation of the 9. And then the next time around, I'll do 2, 3, 3. And that'll be the rotation on that. But that's how I came up with this key building here. First and foremost, it was that there's a dark spot here. That's why he's going to go there. I could also throw him over here for the 1.8 if I ever really need to be the level. Mickey is my strongest medal, so he gets the best slot. And that's why he goes on that 2-2. And then, as we discussed, it's pretty much key rotation after that, just to get the gauges even. Now, for this key, we can do it 2 different ways. It kind of depends on what you're shooting for. With green, I do actually have a booster that is as good as Pooh, so we're going to run her because it's going to make it easier for all of our green levels. Now, this is my Kyrie. I rolled a 97% guilt on her because she's filthy. That's just stupid. We might end up switching her off, though, if we need to with this one, which has the defense boost on it. But Sephiroth, he is my best medal by far in green. So he's going to go on the last slot here because it has the highest multiplier of 2.1 and it's a dark medal, and because of his skill, it does build up the more it's used. So right now we have 3 and then 2. Now, generally, I would want to use all upside metals, but unfortunately I have very, 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 very few good upside metals. So this is probably my next best green metal right here. This is 2 gauges, so it's going to go there. And this leaves us very few spots left to do anything. So that my next best metal would be him, but we gotta evaluate other options because he's a flip side down metal. So is the extra 0.3 multiplier good enough to, say, go with a lead? So that's what we're gonna think about. Now also, Kyra raises speed boost tier by 2 for 1 turn. Now, she's an extra gauge. I didn't think about this originally. It might be even more advantageous for us to use Pooh, who is raises strength tier by 2, but he is 2 gauges. So we might actually make that switch. And because it's going to be 1 less gauge, now it brings our gauge usage from 7 down to 6. And it's going to give us some wiggle room here. Now, our options are a right side up metal or a flipped metal. So that's what we're kind of debating on now. So my best right side up metals are him, Masterform Sora, him, Riku, him, Sora, and her, Yuffie. Now, I also do have some other ones down here, but they're not going to really be getting consideration for my main key. So, this is the options that we have left. Now her, she's a 2.81 with 1 gauge with a 49% gilt. He is a 3.41 when used with multiple. He's usually going to go in the 5th slot, if anything, so we would want to go with somewhere like a 3 multiplier with a 43. So those two are going to be comparable. We'll take a look at how we're going to determine between those two. And then of those two, I also have this one, who's 3.8 with a 6.4 multiplier for 3 gauges. Now, this is simply going to be how we're going to walk through this. So, we have 2 here, and 2 here, also 2 here. So that already puts us at 6. Remember, ideal is 8 or 9 gauges, so you can do all of them in a full rotation. So that's pretty much going to cross out Marluxia, unless we take off one of the other 2, which we don't want to do. So then that drops us down to Exalden, who is a 2 gauge at 52.6, but again, he is elementless, like our Mickey. So with that said, these might be our better options. Now, they are single targets as opposed to him. He's also single target as opposed to him, who is AoE. Now, since these 2 metals right here are already AoE, we're fine doing 2 single targets. And we're going to elect to do it in this setup right here, because he gets powered up the more specials that we use, and she doesn't have any difference no matter what she is. So she's going to go here, and that's going to be our rotation for this blade. Now, again, how we calculate it, we want to stay about 8 to 9 gauges. We have 2 AoEs, 2 single targets, and our main booster. Similarly, with this setup, 2 AoEs, 2 single targets with a booster, and that's how we already went over organizing that. Now, the blue key is essential because it is the key that I use most frequently. So I'm going to definitely have to, show you how I go through my decision making here. Now, I mainly use it for rating, so Pooh is going to be a must, and also my Sora down to Goofy is going to be a must, because he's going to lower defense of all tiers by 1. So he's going to go here. Your boosters are always going to go 1, 2. Now, the next thing that we're going to pick is going to be the last slot, because it has the highest multiplier remaining. So my Sora Donald Goofy is going to go second because he hits so hard, and because he gets that 2.1 multiplier, and because of boost metal. So scratch that. Okay, now here is our choices for the right side up. We got him, who does more damage the higher your HP is. He's 1 gauge. And we have Zexion, who I did re-roll and get a 92% guilt on, so kind of badass now. So we got attack, we got 81 to 69. We have a 3.014 to a 3.24. This is going to be 2 gauges, but in terms of just sheer damage, we're going to want to go with our man here, Zexion, because like I said, we're mostly going to know what a rotation is. We're going to want to keep it somewhere right around 8. So this is my hardest hitter on my blue key, and it is my Soren Pales. You see that he has the 1.3 or 130 multiplier with a 3.91 with 8236. He far supersedes this guy, who is slightly stronger. Same multiplier, but a 2.54 compared to the 3.91. So that's pretty much how we determine those. Now you can see we're kind of at our max now. We have 2, 4, 6, 8. Remember, ideal is 8 or 9. That leaves us very few options here for the last slot. We have either this Riku, who we can use every once in a while. He has the 98%, I'm sorry, and he has a 99%. Now you see his damage is 3.04. Compare that with a 2.89. Now the difference in attack is simply because of Chippendales. So let's pump some Chippendales into this medal because it is pretty sweet. I do want to level this up, so I do kind of want to see where those things will come into play in the future, but I digress. This is what we'll do for now. We'll use these on him, and we'll see where he lands. Let's just pop them all on there. Why not? I know some people don't like putting the little ones on unless they know for sure that they're getting a percentage, because you can't waste them. So, all right. So, with that said, we kind of can tell which way I'm leaning here. We want to keep our rotation about 8 to 9, as discussed. So he's going to win out, and ooh, he's going to exceed limits. So let's see. Do I have any Sid medals laying around? I think I might just have enough. Let's see. Do I have enough? Bang. No, I don't have enough. Alright, so we are going to take a quick detour here in the middle of the video to go get some Sid medals. I don't think I did this quest already this morning. So, I did do it this morning. No. Alright, so for purposes of the video, this would be my setup. I'm 1 Sid short. I'll get it tomorrow, and I'll fix it. And then my hope is that they make this next slot a dark slot, so he'll go up even more. But Riku's going to win for now, and he's simply going to win because I don't have another Sid medal. But tomorrow, it will be switched over to him because we want to keep the rotation about 9, as we discussed. Alright, on to the Olympia. This key I use all the time in Coliseum. So the main purpose of this key is going to be for Coliseum, killing and destroying and dismembering. So we're going to go against the common theme here, and we're going to go off color, but we're going to use Pooh again for our booster. Now, the most important medal in terms of the Coliseum, I brought it up so many times. If you don't know this by now, you should probably just go back and watch some of my videos. Coliseum is all about my man Mickey. Just that's it. I put the attack boost 2 max on him. I should really level that up a little bit because it's 1 out of 20, but it still hits 98% of the time, so that's pretty good. And then my best AoE hitter is my green Sephiroth, so he's going to go in the back spot there. Now, this leaves us 2 spots here. On this key for Coliseum, it kind of does depend what you're doing. We might not even run Sephiroth. We might run our Paralyze setup with these guys. Poison, Paralyze, things of that nature. So that might be an option for us. You know, Paralyze at 9. But the particular level I'm stuck on is an AoE level. So we're going to try something a little different here. we're going to use Cerberus, which is going to put our key level revolution up to 10, which is not good. Not good. Not very good. So, we're going to pop on a green person on the slot here, and let's see what it does. Okay. Now, this is just something I'm throwing together. This would not be my setup because it has way too many gauges. Right now, there is a total of 6, 8, 12 on the rotation. Even though it has the extra gauges, it cannot support 12. Ideally, this key would want to be around 9 to 10. 9 to 10 would be ideal. So right now, we're a little bit over. But I'm going to try it, and we'll go from there. Now, this key, I did level up simply because I needed it to beat the quest. I needed this last slot. And so, for those of you who use it, we will make a video on it. I know, it's traumatic to me too. Alright, so, here we go. This has a goofy-ass setup. So, we're going to have to go goofy-ass. Just use poo again. Okay. So, next slot is green. Let me see what I have in terms of green metals that we can use. So, for green, we're going to go with her as our AoE hitter for that slot there. And there's only one red slot on here. And what that basically just tells me is I need to go with my strongest red metal. That is and will always be Mickey. Now, we have 2 AoEs already, and our count is already up to 7. So we're going to want to kind of stay kind of on the low with our next couple choices here. So for the red slot, or the green slot rather, we're going to take a look at what we have in the green. And, you know, we want to keep this one kind of low in terms of the multiplier. So 1 would be ideal. So we're going to actually run our shadow on that slot because it doesn't matter if it's flipped up, flipped down. It's 1, it's a single target, and it can hit anything, which is going to be really important for this key in general because the only time you'd really use it is if there's a multiple mix of enemies. Mickey is also going to be good for that, so that's going to be weak to red. We're going to want a really, really strong blue hitter now. So, of the blue options that we have, who is going to be most useful? Now, right now our swing rotation is a little off, but I would likely run this as my setup. So, right now you have 2, 4, 7, 9, 10. Of this, you would likely skip her or him, depending on what you were facing. So if you're facing a lot of AoE, you would use her. So that's going to give you 2, 2, 3, 7, 8. And that's going to be your rotation. If you're facing a single target person, it's going to be 2, 5, 6, 8 as your setup. And 8 should be able to run twice around. And remember, the key to the gauge is the key to the game is managing your gauges. If you're not doing that, you might as well just not even focus on it or play. So those are how I would build each key just based on key construction and how I value each thing in terms of the key. Now, specifically, when you're evaluating a metal, just a metal independent of itself. Should I build it? Should I not build it? You want to look at what it does first and foremost. So lowers defense of all attributes by 1 tier. How useful is that? That's what you got to think to yourself. How useful is lowering defense? This is actually one of the best skills that we have out right now. So the answer is really good. Now the next question comes, how hard does it hit? So it hits 0.54 and it has a max multiplier. Yes, this key is going to be useful. Now, then it comes down to how many gauges is it? 2. So 2 is a really good number. 2 is going to be most of your keys. You're going to want to run this consistently, both because of his decent multiplier, his high guilt, his low medium gauges, and his attribute. So that's going to be a really good metal. Now, another example of this that might be a little bit more borderline is going to be our illustrated cloud. Now, again, you check his stats. His attack power, defense power is really high. That 3.5 multiplier is really good. He has the potential to have a really, really good guild. Now, what is actually his skill? He deals 3 exceptionally powerful heals that lower the target's power-based defense by 1 tier. Why is this important? Because he's going to be on a red, obviously, key, and it's basically telling you that every key, every after that, will have 1 tier lower defense to face. So he's going to be a really good key. We're going to end up building him. Right now, he's not on my key because of his gauges and because we don't have that guild on there. So we just can't compete with my red medals right now. Let's look at another key and determine how important he is. Beast, he was one of my first built medals. He actually has some pretty decent attack and defense, and he has the potential to have a 50 guild. So why is he not used? The reason comes in his ability. So defense here, this is the total amount that he hits for 2 gauges. So it says deals 11 hits, inflicted fixed amount of damage regardless of target's defense. So it only does 6,050 damage regardless of how strong you get it. So 60-55. Let's just do a quick comparison with somebody such as my Cloud. Now my Cloud has a 3.49 multiplier. That 3.49 multiplier is going off of this number right here. So this is going off of the 7,000. You can do the math on that. Now, again, there's a 50% guilt, so that's on top of this, and plus your space multiplier. So even though these are the same tier medals, you can see that Cloud far outclasses Beast the same amount of gauges. So Beast is just a terrible medal. So why do I keep him around? Why don't I just get rid of him? Because he has his niche uses. And really high levels, he's going to do 6,050 damage, even if it's level 4 or 500. That's not going to matter. Beast is still going to come in and do his damage. If he was AoE, it might be something that we would use more consistently, but he's just not a good medal. So, not really worth building. Let's look at some more of the marginal examples. For example, this is Final Form Sora. He has the really good stats. He has really good multiplier and really good gauge potential, guild potential, and he's a 1 required gauge. So why don't I use him more? And the real reason I don't use him anymore comes as ability. It inflicts damage in exchange for HP. The only time this is useful is in raids, and he doesn't have good chemistry with the rest of my medals, so he just gets pushed out. Now, he is useful for certain scenarios where you won't get hit. If you're trying to one-turn something and gauge rotation is a concern, this is a really good medal. But in my rotation, I use Final Form Sora, who inflicts more damage the higher HP is used. So taking away from him to use him is not a good trade-off for me. So that's just why he's not in there. Now, you guys do see me run Black Hoot Riku, for example. This is a good example of a good trade-off. Now, he has really good attack, really good guild potential, and a really good multiplier as well. He is 2 gauges, so technically, if you're just comparing these two straight up, this seems like a lot better of an option because it's 1 compared to 2, and this one has slightly more attack than this one. But you'd be wrong. So this one inflicts damage in exchange for defense. Defense, you can undo defense. And also, it plays good with the chemistry, because generally I run blue for my raids. About deals more damage based on how high his defense is. So that's why Riku usually wins that battle. Now, you just keep looking at some random other keys and what makes a boost medal good. This one right here is good for certain situations. It raises strength tier by 2 for 2 attacks, which is good. This, though, raises 2 strength for 1 turn and recovers HP, which is much better. So this is 2 turns. This is 1 full turn. This is 2 attacks. 2 attacks. And this is 1 turn. So you can see the difference between the two, why this one is less effective. Now, also when you're evaluating individual medals, for example, Hercules. Hercules has a decent amount of attack. He does have a good guilt multiplier, and he has a amazing damage at 3.8. So why don't I use Hercules more? And the main reason comes that he's 3 gauges. On my red medals, he is very high at 3. Compare him to my Exalted, who has a similar multiplier, is 3, but has a much higher attack, much higher guilt potential. This just outclasses him. And that is basically what it comes down to. He just beats him out through that, just outclassing him. Here's another example. This guy, really strong for AoE. 2.86 AoE, 7,129 attack, but he is 4 gauges. You just cannot afford to give up 4 gauges for one medal, unless he's doing something epic for you. 6, I'm sorry, you are not. Okay, so what are some of the marginal medals that you guys are comparing? For example, I know a lot of you people have these. Judy, she's just not good, because it raises 1 tier by 1 turn for 3. Just not even good when you compare it to your standard boost medal, which is the same thing for 2. I don't understand why you would be running a Judy at all. Another good example is Nick. He does the same thing, again, 3 gauges for simply just a boost medal. It's just not worth it. Now, that's kind of my evaluation of medals. Some people may disagree, or some people may agree, but it mostly comes down to the ability and the gauge rotation. I showed you guys how I built medals. I built my key based on the medals. Now, that is everything that I basically wanted to cover today, so comment below if this was helpful, or if you want to see future content. Remember, everyone, to do your Jewel Quest today and your Sid Quest today. Tomorrow you'll see my blue key being a lot better, since I'll actually have the Sid medals. You all have a wonderful evening, and thank you as always for watching.